My friend Wendy and her sister Becky always knew their mom was a little different. For one thing, she referred to herself as Moppy, and to Wendy as Fred and Becky as Leroy. Pretty early on, they were able to recognize that their mom has OCD and ADHD. Those were obvious. But there was just something else.
Okay, when I was a child, I always knew I was different, but I didn't know exactly why. And no, I was one of those kids that was hyper, and back then they didn't really have a name for it. They didn't really know what to do with people like me. But I will never forget, my second grade teacher was talking to the teacher that was going to be my third grade teacher, and I overheard them saying, well, we know she's not retarded.
Only much, much later, when Moppy was 58 years old, would they discover that she has Asperger's, which is on the high-functioning side of the autism spectrum and was only officially recognized by the American Psychiatric Association in 1994.
I remember when I was little, she would say, the doctors are going to say I'm crazy and they're going to take my kids away. That's like such a strong memory of things that you would say all the time.
They're going to take my kids away, yeah.
Nonverbal learning disorder with characteristics symptomatic of Asperger's syndrome, obsessive-compulsive disorder, attention deficit hyperactive disorder, severe anxiety, pretty strong paranoia, learning disabilities, and tic disorder. We were really close when I was little. We were both pretty affectionate, and then I kind of grew out of affection, and I think maybe she kind of did too, but her affection was transitioned to our pets. It's a pretty well-known statistic that people in the autism spectrum have an incredible bond with animals. I think part of it's because there isn't that language barrier. That was really hard that felt like a rejection. Why do you love the dog so much, but you don't love me? We had a very difficult time from when I was about 10 until I was about 18. She doesn't like me. She's not interested in me. She won't take me shopping. She won't cook for me, blah, 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 And so my parents decided to get a divorce in 1993.
After her parents divorced, Wendy lived with her dad and became estranged from her mom for 4 years. It just hurt too much.
It was more than hormones. It was more than a phase. It was more than just disagreeing over things. We really did not get along. We just couldn't. We could not coexist for many years, and it was devastating.
Wendy kept moving farther and farther from her mom back in Omaha, Nebraska. While she was living in Washington, D.C., Wendy was getting more antsy to have help. Moppy's quirks were becoming more and more evident to her. For instance, why did she like to wear Scotch tape on her fingertips? And why did she need to wear rubber bands over her shirt sleeves if they were baggy?
We started making a list of everything that was different about you.
Oh, God. We don't have that much.
We don't have that. It was more than she's eccentric. It was more than she's got a learning disability. It was more than she's non-traditional. I knew it.
A lot of these technical things I can't do. They're just too much for me. I know that I have limitations.
I hated being so far away and not being able to observe her or think like whatever it is it getting worse? Is there an it? What's going to happen to her?
She enlisted Becky and their grandmother to have an intervention. So they had a 4-way phone call, and they asked Moppy how she would feel if they sought medical help for her.
And she goes, okay, if you think it'll help. And I was like I think I passed out on the couch.
During the year-long and very frustrating process of getting a diagnosis, Wendy decided to move back to Omaha. And in 2007, they finally got the Asperger's diagnosis.
I said, what does it mean? Is there therapy? Does she have to take medication? What do I have to do? Oh my gosh. And I completely immersed myself in that world. I was definitely overcompensating for the 4 years that we were apart.
Now, getting a diagnosis isn't a cure. The biggest change now is that they have language for why Moppy is so different, why she experiences life so differently, why she doesn't have the same apprehensions about social rights and wrongs as the rest of her family.
It's not like all of a sudden we have all these resolutions and there's no problems in our life. The difference is how we're coping with it.
Not being able to understand the regular workings of life, so I guess I figured they could help me. I don't know if they're helping me, but I guess in some ways they are.
That's wonderful.
I think it's helping you accept things about yourself that you never did before. I don't think that you feel as bad about yourself as you used to.
Yeah, I guess. You know, I know now that I can totally unload myself. I can be myself in front of my family, and they won't put me down, you know.
In some ways, it's as if we have an elderly parent. In some ways, it's as if we have a younger sister.
It's really beautiful to see, like, I can't imagine the ways that you guys have had to talk through things and learn to communicate, and how brave you've been in this whole thing. I just want to tell you that I admire you both a lot. I really do.
I'm really thankful to you that you used the word brave, because she doesn't think she's brave. I think she's incredibly brave.
Yeah, really.
She doesn't.
There's no violence, there's no... I don't have cancer.
It's a philosophical meaning. It's not a tangible bravery. I have a bad hair day, and I think that my world is ending. You know what I mean?
In addition to helping her own mother, Wendy has been moved to action on behalf of all adults with Asperger's. This is a population that has been left out.
You've got to advocate for those who cannot advocate for themselves. It doesn't mean she's not capable. It doesn't mean she doesn't have a voice. It just means that it got to a point where she gave up on herself, and we weren't going to give up on her.
There are currently no programs, no funds, no government help for adults who have been diagnosed with Asperger's. Adults like Moppy.
A child with an autism spectrum disorder can grow up and can have a child. And that child can have a voice.
You're never gonna see this song online. There ain't a singing voice as bad as mine. You'll never hear me sing a song, so I will just move along. It ain't karaoke night tonight. Oh, it ain't karaoke.